To anybody who's never played The Crew 2, it's almost impossible to fully convey how vast the map is. Sure, you can tell them it includes New York City, Las Vegas and San Francisco, but they'll never be able to appreciate its scale until they get behind the wheel and drive, and drive, and drive. Going from South LA to northern New England takes nearly an hour. Tackle it in one of the slower cars or bikes and you may need to stop for a toilet break. The scale is so vast, I've been playing since launch and I still don't think I've been everywhere. In that regard, it has more in common with Truck Simulator than Forza Horizon, the excitement being derived from the journey as opposed to the destination. The more time spent traversing from place to place, the more rewarding it becomes. It really does invoke a road trip feeling. Hand out the window as a summer sun slowly sets kind of feeling. You can imagine the warm evening air as the sky starts to dim over an ocean whose smell is replaced with barbecue coals. A moment where all sound is gone and life is played in slow motion. Nothing much matters other than the here and now. Great days with great people. So I ask you, does it matter what you're driving? Those sights and sounds, that joy and ecstasy, all exist as a result of the journey, no matter what wheel you find yourself behind. But this is fantasy. Imagination meets computer code to provide the experience of a lifetime. My fantasy is awaken early on a Saturday morning, coffee in hand while filling the frunk with bags ready to head out on an adventure. An adventure that's made more interesting because of this low-slung Italian diva, who's more than capable of reaching 200 miles an hour, but becomes a restless toddler if the road isn't glacier smooth. Relinquishing practicality in favour of passion is what makes the trip, not what breaks it. It's a combination of car and journey that's alluring. One without the other just doesn't resonate the same emotion. And it's this emotion the Crew 2 emulates so well, but it does it almost unknowingly. For better or worse, you can tell this game was designed by committee.
Add boats!
Shouts one person.
What about monster trucks?
Shouts another. Every idea was noted and then implemented. Without nailing its colours to a mast, you could forgive the Crew 2 for having an identity crisis. But in a way, the breadth of disciplines allows it to be all things to all people. A quick skim of the subreddit highlights this perfectly. Each player gravitating to the game for a different reason, yet all coexisted at the same time. In a world so divided, it's nice to see such civility. It's a kind of small town vibe where you give each other a wave as you pass on the high street, united in the knowledge that we still appreciate this game 3 years after release. From swamps to mountains, rolling hillsides to lush forests, this game is at its most picturesque when you're in nature, no matter if you're driving through it or flying over it. It's less a playground and more a virtual tour of America's highlight reel, the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, but perhaps the most surprising for me is exploring the waterways. I overlooked the boats when the game initially debuted its vehicle switching system. The immediate draw was the hot switch from car to plane and back again, opening up the world from the Crew 1 in new ways. But after release I found the boat racing events somewhat relaxing compared to the frantic street race action, and boy does the water look good in this game. Venture out of the small tributaries and it's then, more than ever, that you appreciate the expanse in which you find yourself. The rolling waves lift and drop your vessel at will, and although you can see land, it never appears to get any closer. Stay out there long enough and you start watching the cars and planes bustle from A to B, as the trees sway and the lights flicker. You thought this was your world, but life carries on without you. Do they even know you're out there? Do they even care? If I was to summarise this game in one experience, it would be rolling up to New York City for the first time, driving up the coast from Florida, leaving the sun and sand behind in search of that iconic skyline. Shortly after leaving Miami, the buildings give way to grassland and miles of tarmac. The 20-minute drive north sees you crisscrossing through freeway junctions and tunnels, passing small towns and large cities. You'll likely make this trip numerous times while you own the Crew 2, but you only get one first time, so savour it. And then it appears, sprawled out across the horizon, instantly recognisable as the Big Apple. A world away from the national parks in the west, snow-covered mountains to the north and arid terrain in the south. It's easy to forget they all exist within this one world, all connected by land, air and water. Traverse as you will, adventure as you please.